Well, it's got to be one of these streets. There's no other way we could have come.
I don't remember any of this. Are you sure we weren't just,
No, what?
imagining it? We were tripping our faces off. Maybe it didn't actually happen.
Yeah, could be that. Or not. Look, this is where it happened. The wizard baby, do you remember?
The talk of the street.
Talk of the street.
The talk of the street.
Talk of the street.
The talk of the street.
Talk of the street.
The talk of the street.
Talk of the street.
Welcome to episode 363 of The Talk of the Street, an unofficial Coronation Street catch podcast that started watching Last of the Summer Wine again last week and then stopped watching Last of the Summer Wine again this week. I'm Gavin.
And I'm ready for my hollybobs.
Oh, I am so ready for my hollybobs.
So ready for my hollybobs.
So much so that I'm not even apologising for using the word hollybobs.
You should never apologize for the word hollybobs.
People fucking hate
Really?
hollybobs.
Hollybobs. It's fun.
I think so.
I think so too.
Well, that's decided then.
That's why we're married.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're off to New England tomorrow.
Yes. It is our traditional trek to New England. It was funny. I was looking at pictures that came up in my Facebook memories a couple of days ago. Do you remember we brought that giant ship to Connecticut last year for Tice?
Mm-hmm.
That giant, big-ass ship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was stupid at the time, but
Yeah.
still do.
Yeah, but he loved it. He loved it. I was the greatest auntie ever. And, you got some brownie points by association. I'm assuming. I don't know.
I'm thrilled.
Yeah, you look thrilled.
Mm-hmm.
This time we are not bringing a giant ship
No.
to Connecticut. We are just bringing ourselves and one child. Only one child.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And then off we go to the great state of Maine for a few days.
Yes.
And I don't believe in ghosts, but I'm going to say a definitely haunted hotel.
I was telling my coworker Sharon about, remember when we were sitting at the bar and the computer monitor kept turning around by itself?
Yep.
Yeah. Nobody was around there.
And then walking through the hall with all the chairs in it,
Uh-huh.
and you just sensed something being in that room.
Yep.
But then we asked the bar staff if they thought the hotel was haunted, and they said nope.
No.
Well, we did.
But if you ask Yelp and Google reviews and TripAdvisor, definitely haunted. We are not the only people who think that place is haunted. It's hilarious.
I'm actually a little scared about going back to it now.
Oh, it's fine. It's not nearly as scary and haunted as that place in New Hampshire. Remember that place in New Hampshire that reminded me of The Shining?
That's just because it looked like The Shining. And there was those two twins that used to stand outside the elevator menacingly.
Yes.
Anyway, how are you otherwise?
Good. Been a very busy week working. I'm wearing my work shirt today.
So you are.
Yeah. I wore my work shirt to work. And then I was
That's
like,
where you're meant to wear your work shirt.
And then I'm like, now people will know I work here and ask me questions. They do that anyway. I guess there are people who are regulars. So like I will be upstairs walking through the shop, which I don't work in. I work downstairs in the auction department.
I got a row for not playing that last week, and I can't remember who from. But just it was noted.
And now you need to say auction talk.
Oh, auction talk.
No, say it right.
I
suppose that's close enough.
There you go.
Yeah. So, and they'll say, "Excuse me, do you work here?" Or, "Excuse me, can you help me?" And for the most part, I can't because I don't work in the shop. So, I kind of know where things are up there, obviously. And I know where the bathroom is.
Oh, that's useful.
And, I helped an old lady once get a cart But for the most part, I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. I work downstairs in the auction department, and leave it at that, and walk away and go down the stairs back to my hole.
And behind your back, they go, ooh, I can't help because I walk downstairs. Ooh la la, fancy.
Yeah, we have a really nice Herman Miller office chair that came in today, so quite excited about that. That won't be in this next auction, obviously, but that was exciting. And she brought in all these like Broadway books and stuff. We should see a show on Broadway one of these days.
Shall we preamble, my dear?
That's it. How was your week?
Sure. Give us some of that Holly Bob Corrie news.
I'd like to go see Oh Mary, the Mary Todd Lincoln play. But anyway, good news, everybody. Maureen Lipman is coming back to the cobbles soon. Probably not for very long,
Yep.
but she will be there soon. She's back to filming, so everything will be sorted on the street forthwith. They need her back because it's chaos. It's chaos.
It is. It's chaos rampant in an age of distrust.
Cats and dogs living together.
Oh,
Blah, blah, blah.
seriously.
Blah, blah, blah. Kate Fitton has had a rough go of it this week in the show as racist Kelly. But off the show, she appears lucky in love, going Instagram official with her real life boyfriend on his 23rd birthday. She did not reveal his name, but we at least know that she has a boyfriend, and he is now 23.
And I didn't get him anything.
You didn't. You didn't. Shame on you. 23.
Oh, to be young.
Yeah, I was a young mum at 23, so I don't think I want to go back to 23. Maybe 20.
Fine.
Yeah. And finally.
Corrie news.
And finally, Coulson Smith has landed his next TV role in an episode of Celebrity Mastermind, which will air in December.
I saw him on the set of Mastermind and I wasn't sure if he'd just broken in. So he's actually filmed an episode of Mastermind.
Yes, he
That's
posted.
a tough old quiz. Or it used to be a tough old quiz. I don't know if it's still...
Yeah, we don't know who his partner is in it, though.
Doesn't have a partner in Mastermind.
Really? Because there's a picture with him sitting across from someone else, and that person is blocked out, and he's going like this. He's doing the...
The person sitting across from him was the guy asking the questions.
All right. Well, we don't know who's asking him questions then.
I don't know. See, in my age, it's Magnus Magnuson that asked the questions, but I think he's quite dead now. So.
Yeah. Well, supposedly it's a secret, so it must be like a special guest and not like the normal Celebrity Mastermind person.
Obviously not
whoever
doing
that
the
is.
shushing because it was supposed to be a secret that he's on Mastermind.
No, because it's the other person's face who's blocked out with like a smiley face emoji. And that's Corrie News.
That's Corrie News.
That's Corrie News. It's our hollybobs.
That's the theme of everything else that you're about to hear as we zoom through the past 3 episodes
Gav
because
still-
I want to go to my bed before 2 o'clock tomorrow morning.
Right, and Gav still needs to pack 2 t-shirts and 1 pair of undercrackers.
And a pair of socks, just in case you convince me to go hiking. And now our feedback section that, you know. Josephine writes in, my kids, both Gen Z, pronounced Z in Canada. Mm-hmm. Gen Z?
Gen Z.
That's what they'll say in the UK as well, and that just sounds odd.
Right, it sounds like it's a generation of zombies.
It does a little bit. Anyway, Josephine writes, my kids, both Gen Z, keep their feet covered because they don't want people to get a free look when people pay for foot pics on sites like feetfinder.com. Everything has been sexualised. What our children have been exposed to is pretty wild. I wouldn't extrapolate too much because this has nothing to do with Corrie. Oh, don't let that stop you, Josephine.
No, never let that stop you, Josephine.
In fact, that's encouraged.
Yes.
But do you remember when an entire generation of kids was exposed to, I did not have sexual relations with that woman, and its ramifications the cigar, etc.
Right, and the stained dress with semen on it.
Aye, me hearties. That's tame compared to what kids are seeing now. Anyway, this is why my kids keep their feet covered. Now, I approached Stella about this
Yes.
through the week, and I said, you know how you always wear socks
With your
with
sandals?
your flip-flops? And she's, yes. And I was like, I've heard that it's because, and then she started to laugh. I was like, is it because people take photographs of your feet? And she said, no,
No,
it's just because feet are ugly.
right, and that's what most kids. That's what I said last week. Is that they're offended by the look of feet, and I joked with her and Nick last night because we were talking about shows that I only know because they watched them when they were younger, and I said, do you think maybe you guys don't like the look of feet because of Dan Schneider, the guy who did all those shows on Nickelodeon, who turned out to be a pervert, who had a Tarantino-like obsession with young women's feet. So there were bare feet in those shows all the time. Like the one that Ariana Grande was in.
Sure.
You walked in on this show many times
I
when
don't
the
pay
kids...
attention to it.
You're so funny.
I'm a businessman.
Really? You're a businessman?
I'm a businessman. I've got business to conduct.
What business are you conducting?
Oh, lots of business.
And they said, no, it wasn't because of Dan Schneider. It's just that feet are ugly. Well, I'm like, fair enough.
Well, maybe there's a little bit of that, and maybe there's a little bit of what Josephine's kids...
Right. But I'm happy to hear that it's Generation Z all over the world who wear socks with sandals now, like old men. Then again, they like dressing like grandpas all the time anyway, Gen Z. Think of all those outfits Stelly has where she looks like a grandpa.
That's every photograph. The pipe doesn't help.
No.
Now, remember last week we were talking about Soap Week, the upcoming celebration of all things soap.
Oh, yes.
Inspired by our friends over at Conversation Street.
Have we gotten our jigsaw puzzle yet?
We haven't.
No.
I'm hoping that we'll be able to get that in the grand state of Maine.
Oh, that would be fantastic.
But anyway, we were talking about the live stream for doing the jigsaw.
Right.
So that's the background that you need for Aussie Ali's correspondence to us. Where she writes, can I suggest a Soda Stream live stream?
I don't know how far that would go.
I don't know what that is. I will donate if I can see you two bickering about the amazing gift you received from Helen, the gift of carbonated sugar water. I genuinely enjoyed that. Who knows? Let's get the jigsaw and let's move, because we've got some room on this desk for a
Yeah,
Soda
we
Stream,
can
I
move
guess.
these papers and stuff.
Yeah, and we can get busy with the fizzy.
Yeah, we can drink fizzy water while we do our jigsaw puzzle. Yeah, you're getting so much more use out of that than your Father's Day presents, which are on the floor over there.
Yes, those pieces of card. I thought they'd be useful.
Your shining poster and your octopusy stand
I
up
don't know where you think I'm supposed to put those things.
in your cubby at work.
I don't have room. Stop, get me tat for my room, for my cubicle when I don't have space for it.
Aw. It's also not tat. It's like these are vintage movie paraphernalia.
Old tat. Anyway,
Would you like to see my old tat?
I've seen it. Anyway, Holly writes, do you know that Conor McIntyre, aka Pat Phelan, is an accomplished artist? He was shortlisted for this year's Jackson Art Prize, unlike me, sadly. But thought you might find it interesting. I did have a look at it, and his artwork is very interesting.
That's so interesting that, like, the villains of Coronation Street have these interesting musical lives. Mm-hmm. It's like Tim's dad being an accomplished singer and musician and dancer on the Wonka movie.
Yeah.
Remember when he danced?
Oh, yes. Yes,
to
Helen, I
see the
remember.
Wonka movie?
Yes.
And I booed, and everybody was confused except for you.
We both shouted, that's Tim's dad. And then watching the ballerina John Wick movie a couple of weeks ago, we both shouted, that's Sharon from Coronation Street.
Yeah.
Tracy Bennett's in that.
Yeah, so that's 2 movies this year that I've seen with her in, which is crazy because she's only been in like 5. She's only got like 5 Letterboxd credits.
Oh,
So I've watched like
complete the set.
almost half of her movies.
And Cheeky writes, Dear Steve and Cassie, this week's Coronation Street felt like a tale of two shows.
Oi! I'm Steve in this scenario, right? I'm Steve. You're Cassie.
You looking at my boobs?
Yes.
This week's Coronation Street felt like a tale of two shows. One struggling to wrangle a chaotic teen drug storyline that never fully landed, and another telling a quiet, heartbreaking story of a woman slowly slipping away from herself. The college-age party arc had potential to explore something meaningful, impulsivity, trauma, and consequences, but instead it became a patchwork of poorly thought-out choices, weak emotional follow-through, and performances that couldn't hold the weight of the material, and ended with a twist that landed with a thud, because no one leading up to it had earned that level of emotional payoff. In stark contrast, Debbie's storyline continues to be the emotional centre of gravity in the show, her slow decline into dementia, and Ronnie's heartbreak at being unable to reach her emotionally is gut-wrenching in the best way. The scene where he tries to win her back, only to realise love can't fix what's happening to her mind, was devastatingly honest. This week was proof that Coronation Street still knows how to break hearts, but only when it gives its characters the time and space to actually feel something. The show is at a crossroads. It can choose emotional truth, like it has with Debbie, or it can keep chasing empty shock. I know which I'd rather watch. Mm-hmm. That's very well written.
Very well written.
Chicky, who went on more than that. But
brevity.
But we've got men to get to. So unfortunately,
we've got men to get to.
Men. The grand state of Maine.
Okay, it sounded like you said we've got men to get to, and I mean
the night is young.
Sure.
So apologies to Chicky for cutting your missive so short.
I do agree with pretty much all that they said.
I actually thought the performances in the party were pretty decent. And one in particular I thought was outstanding. But
yes,
we will get to
I
that.
will agree with that one, but some of the others, and I think it's more the writing than the actors.
It's
but
difficult to act in a party because there's no music playing. You're not drunk. You don't really want to be there. It's difficult. Anyway, feedback's always welcome. Send us your thoughts, and I'll probably read them out. Get us at thetalkofthestreet@gmail.com, or our DMs are open at Corrie Podcast, or we love it when people write actual letters to us. Send us your proper mail, postcards and chocolate to The Talk of the Street, P.O. Box 12, Eaton Rapids, Michigan.
And ketchup chips.
48827. Please note that we reserve the right to edit feedback, sorry cheeky, but only in the interests of brevity.
Where are my Canadian homies with my ketchup chips?
Can you imagine what they'd be like coming through the mail? It'd just be a bag of crumbs.
No, it'd be fine. I mean, we probably will nip into Canada at some point during our hollybobs.
Maybe.
So I guess I could buy my own ketchup chips.
And now we'll podcast for coffee. We're on our own coffees this week. I am towards the end of a soda stream of ginger ale.
And I am towards the end of a glass of cranberry juice.
Let's see who lasts the longest.
You.
Yeah, I probably won't touch that again.
You've got more to go than I do, so you'll still have some by the end of the show.
I'll have some, all right.
Oh, yeah.
The Talk of the Street is and will always be free on your podcast provider and on the YouTubes, but if you think our show is worth anything more than the time it takes to listen to it, and if you want to show your appreciation, you can buy us next week's coffee by going to ko-fi.com. That's ko-fi.com/the Talk of the Street. You can also sign up to be a friend of the podcast through the same link, where for as little as $2 a month, you can get a mention in the closing credits of each and every episode. And if Ko-Fi isn't your thing, we also have a Patreon site where you can show us some love. Sign up to be a friend of the podcast there. I forgot to say it at patreon.com, the Talk of the Street.
It doesn't say it like that.
Well, now I do. Remember, you can always support the podcast for free and get us in front of new listeners by liking, subscribing, rating, and reviewing wherever you get your podcast. All right, shall we dive in, my dear?
Yes, please. It's hot in this room.
It's hot in this room. Our first storyline tonight is I Know What You Did Last of the Summer Wine, Part 1.
I know what you did, Summer. I know what you did last summer.
Yeah. I think we've done that. We've already done that one.
Probably. I can't believe they're rebooting that movie again.
Last of the Summer Wine? Old men in a bathtub? Going down a hill?
That's a TV show. No. I know what you did last summer.
I liked that the first time round. This one looks very po-faced and serious. I don't like the look of it.
No.
All right, on Monday, In Dev's, Aadi is worrying about how to organise his party, and he's missed the chance to have it over the weekend. Well, that's unfortunate.
It is.
Bernie tells him just to throw it and make it a midsummer party. After refusing to serve Brody, who seems to be best buds with Dylan now,
Which is weird.
can we let's...
Okay.
What happened to make that a thing?
Right. Is it because Brody is threatened by Dylan and thinks he's going to bloody him again? Or is he just desperate to have somebody to talk to that's not his mum?
But we should see those scenes take place, because the last we saw it, Dylan was ready to deck Brody again.
Remember when Todd and Paul became friends and reconciled?
Oh, everyone forgave Todd off camera.
Right. Yeah. And it was never explained how they became friends and co-dads to Summer.
Yeah. Well, this is the same, but worse. They're best buds now. Aadi sends out a text to Amy and Summer about the midsummer party, and they send it on, and those people send it on. Asha is furious because she has to work, and Aadi didn't speak to her first, and she's not cool with it. Aadi tells her to chill. Summer tells a last of the summer wine joke that no one knows, and it just sounds like she's saying the same words over and over again.
Because she is. Because that's how Billy talks. Because we'll see that later on in the week, Billy saying the same words over and over again and expecting a different response. They're both insane.
Those scenes were just so funny. I complain an awful lot about fancy techniques of storytelling and Dutch angles and volume walls and all the newfangled stuff that I really disapprove of.
I'll show you my Dutch angle.
I'll show you my volume wall.
It doesn't work as well because you're not a volume.
You're not Dutch.
Yes, I am. I'm a Dutch American and proud of it.
Sure. But there was a lot of fancy edits here that I know many people hated. But you kind of just a lot of zoom in and zoom out transitions, and there was cuts from one half of a conversation that just flowed into the second half of a different conversation in a different place, but there was a through line.
Right, because it's all people getting the invitation to a party. It reminded me of 1990s teen movies.
I liked it.
Yeah, I didn't mind it either because it reminded me of 1990s teen movies.
Because I felt it was light-hearted.
Yeah.
And some are going on talking about how she'd sent the message and those people sent the message and it went on and on
Right,
and on.
yes. Like a 90s teen movie.
Was lovely because she was so fucking excited.
Only back in the 90s, it was beepers, not phones.
She was so excited.
She
was
was.
so looking forward to the party. She was enjoying the setup of it and the organisation of it and the kind of viral nature of getting everybody in the same place at
And
the
she
same
was
time.
funny and she was not serious and she'd forgotten that she had type 1 diabetes.
And bulimia.
And,
And
well,
body dysmorphia.
yeah, but, you know, those you can grow out of.
And that she was pregnant by a rapist.
Yeah, but again, you can grow out of those things. She's going to have type 1 diabetes the rest of her life.
She forgot all about that.
No.
And she'd had a
and
good
she's
bit of fun.
finally allowed to dress like a grown-up on the show. It was nice.
Albeit a grown-up Florence Pugh.
Right, well, Florence Pugh is also a grown-up.
Yeah, that's why I said grown-up.
Yes. She doesn't have Florence Pugh's hair, though. More the shame. Close.
Yeah, I really liked this. And I know a lot of people didn't, but it really worked for me. So, later at number 7, the place is jumping. Even the guy from the deli counter at Fresh Goes, who smells of cheese, is there.
What is wrong with the smell of cheese? What kind of cheese are we talking about?
We can be talking about some pretty funky cheese.
That's true.
Meanwhile, Betsy's getting ready while Carla and...
Sweet.
are off into town, and they trust Betsy to set the factory alarm. Why would they do that?
And lock the door.
Why would they do that?
Well, because Swain is in a rush to get to this show that they're supposedly going to that she's been really excited to see, although she never names the show that they are going to see. So she can't be that arsed to go see it if they never mention what they're going to go see. Just something in town. So she rushes Carla out the door immediately. Carla is still in her work clothes going to this show. This is not cool. Let Carla change her clothes and brush her hair.
Oh, there was
And
just
maybe add some more lippy.
just the urgency about getting this factory alarm set, and then
Right,
they'd
because
be
they're
better just not
so
doing
eager.
it.
They're so eager to get to this show. So very eager to get to this show that they leave Betsy to lock up the factory. Why did Carla not lock up the factory when she left the factory?
Where's Ryan? Get Ryan to do it. On their way back from not really doing that properly, Betsy sees racist Kelly and lets her know that Bobby won't be coming back.
Ever!
Racist Kelly correctly thinks that everyone hates her, so Betsy decides to drag her to the party to cheer her up.
Right, because she got the invite, but she thinks that she got it accidentally because everybody hates her.
Yeah, she got it from the
You know who
deli guy.
You know who was accidentally invited to this party? Underage Betsy.
Right.
Betsy, who has no association with any of these young adults on the show who are significantly older than she is.
She was one of the first people to get an invite.
It was weird.
Yeah, the age groups, the people that were there, was odd.
Yeah. Just as odd as Dylan and Brody being friends now.
But Betsy drinks more than Steve does these days.
Well, there is that. Although Steve does an awful lot of drinking in this show. Most of it off camera. That I found delightful too, the Steve and Brian thing.
Yeah.
Although it should have been Steve and Tim. But you know what? It's fine.
It was nice seeing Brian there.
It's nice to see Brian, getting aired out every once in a while. Now that Julie's dead.
Gets rid of the fusty smell.
Of Julie's corpse.
Also probably quite fusty.
Yes.
Outside the newsagent, we see Brody has a vial of acid.
Well, he has a vial of clear liquid that we're led to assume is a drug of some sort.
The show point blank refuses to name it.
Exactly.
I'm naming it.
Because they don't want to be mocked by people like us for being obsessed with LSD? Like it's the 1960s?
I always thought that LSD came in tab format.
It does. You can get it in tab format, but you can get it in other formats as well. And usually it's
like eggs.
It's like a drop of the liquid on the tab.
Is it?
Because it's like a paper tab that you put on your tongue.
See, I've never done that.
Yeah, the first time I did LSD, I talked to a dog for 5 hours.
You do that when you're sober.
I know.
You talk to the fucking Roomba for most of the afternoon.
Yes, but this time the dog talked back.
More than Woof?
More than Woof.
More than Woof. So, Brody's got acid from somewhere. And he intends to rock this party into next week. Kit turns up at the quad house to tell Bernie.
Yes, because that's what happens when you take LSD. You rock the party.
Kit turns up at the quad house to tell Bernie that he's got the DNA results email, but he hasn't looked at it. Bernie talks him round. And it turns out, wouldn't you know it, Kit is the father. Well, colour me surprised.
And that bitch.
In the kitchen, Aadi and Amy are enjoying some light flirting, and they smooch for a moment before being interrupted by Asha, who's mothering everyone at the party before she heads off for work. Aadi overhears Amy telling Asha that she didn't feel anything from the kiss, but stops eavesdropping before she says that she still feels tense after the whole Aaron thing, but she really likes Aadi. Summer has dressed as Florence Pugh from Midsommar.
As did Nina.
And no one gets it.
Except for Nina, who's goth Florence Pugh in Midsommar. She's kind of gothy in that wrestling movie a little bit, Florence Pugh. She's got black hair in that movie. That's a good movie. Fighting with My Family.
An angry Aadi sees Brody and Dylan in the party, and just as Steve and Brian arrive, Aadi goes to throw Brody out when he sees him with the drugs.
Kit-toot!
Notably, he hangs on to the wee vial as Kit comes in with Bernie, and Kit throws a violent Brody out, threatening to tell his mum. Brody promises revenge. Yeah, Brody just threw the table over and... so hateful.
Yeah.
My heart sinks every time I see him on screen. And yet another storyline. How can we get Brody into this storyline? Brody has nothing to do with this storyline. That doesn't matter. How can we get Brody involved in it?
He's not friends with any of these people. How can we get him in?
And again, he's
underage. Yeah.
He says he's 18. He's not.
Not.
So you've got three age groups at this party. You've got the young teens.
Uh-huh.
You've got the
20th.
older teens and early 20s.
Yeah.
And then you've got Stephen Bryan.
Yes. Yes. And that
Who's
was
having
hilarious.
the most fun?
Stephen Bryan. It's so funny to just see them sitting there drinking their IPAs.
Oh, they're like an IPA.
They like an IPA in a bottle.
Be careful though, it does give you tits. So
I think that ship has sailed.
Asha suggests pouring the acid down the sink, but Aadi fancies trying it because he's never tried it before. And so does Nina, and she's never tried it before. It turns out Summer dropped acid when she was in America.
Well, she took hallucinogens when she was in America. This is America. I'm going to say she took ayahuasca when she briefly left Boston to go to Arizona, which, you know, is right next door because everything in America is right next door to one another.
You thought that the United Kingdom was the same size as Delaware, so I'm not hearing any complaints from you.
Yeah, maybe a little ketamine or some mushrooms that I am fully aware grow in the great state of Massachusetts. Nobody's doing acid in Boston, except for grandpas.
Summer was. And she had a grand old time. That was hilarious, though.
Yeah, she's like, I did it.
I did
it's
it.
Fine.
Why did you fucking do it?
America.
In America.
That is what makes America great. Psychedelic drugs.
Given to young women. Superb. Summer here, just so funny. Again, she's so excited.
See, she's been to Boston Common after all.
Yeah. So they pour out 3 cups. Nina and Summer take one, and Aadi's called off to a vomiting emergency, so he leaves his for later. But by the time he comes back, the cup is gone. Aadi worries that Asha drank it because she's supposed to be working.
Right, and it was just lemonade.
And he runs off to get her at the tram stop. But it turns out Asha's been on water all night, and it's racist Kelly who drank his drink.
We know that because she stumbles out and there's a wonky lens on her face.
Wonky lens means
Wonky lens.
that racist Kelly is tripping out of her tits.
Yes.
And not in a good way.
No.
And she's followed into the gunnel by the ghost of Joel.
Ooh.
Or it's just some bloke.
Right, it's initially just some bloke, but then it's the ghost of Joel because the ghost of Joel becomes more than just one bloke.
Right. Yeah, so she's staggering about, bouncing off the walls, trying to get away from what she thinks is Joel.
Yes.
Outside, Brody has a bit of 2x4 and he attacks Kit with it. Kit easily disarms him, and during the exchange, Bernie decides that now is the time to let it spill that Brody is Kit's son. And Bernie drags them both into Kit's flat to talk about this calmly. Brody thinks the email that he's shown is fake, doesn't appreciate being told that Lou and Mick both already know, or that Bernie harvested his DNA from his baseball cap.
That he wore once and then had a seizure.
When Brody storms out, Kit's pissed at Bernie for saying anything. Back at the party, Nina sees stars coming out of her fingertips, and Summer now realises that all matter is merely energy condensed to a slow vibration, that we are all one consciousness experiencing itself subjectively. There is no such thing as death. Life is only a dream, and we're all the imagination of ourselves.
Yeah, that they were far more realistic when they were just staring into the shiny globe.
I liked it
And when they
when
started talking,
Betsy
it was
said,
dumb.
Summer's acting kind of weird, isn't she? And it cut to Summer trying to pick something out of Nina's hair.
Uh-huh.
Like a monkey grooming another monkey.
Sure.
So that was the best bit.
Or me picking hairs off the back of your shirt after you've shaved your head again.
Or lettuce from the front of my shirt because I've eaten a sandwich.
Yes, and you've saved some lettuce for later.
Didn't save it for later. It just fell.
Well, you were saving it for something because you didn't take it out of your shirt yourself.
I didn't know it was there.
I had to do it for you.
Didn't know it was there.
It's right there,
I didn't see it.
right in front of your face.
I don't look down.
Why not?
I never look down.
Why not?
I'm a businessman, Helen. I look up. I look up into the business sky, into the business stratosphere. I've not got time to look down.
Oh, dear. You really need your hollybobs.
Asha and Aadi deduce that racist Kelly drank the acid and they head off to find her. She's staggering her way to the factory that Betsy failed to close up properly before Aadi can get to her. And just as Swain and Carla show up because the alarm was going off, racist Kelly's still tripping balls and imagines getting chased through the factory by mannequins that are Joel.
Yes, it's like she's in an episode of Doctor Who.
Aadi tells Swain that he's looking for a cricket ball.
Yeah.
Aadi was superb in this as well. He's so funny. And apparently the scene where he was running up the steps and they tripped and they fell.
Uh-huh. He just tripped and he fell.
He just tripped and they fell.
Yeah.
But it captured the urgency and the anxiety of him.
Right.
And it
So
really
they
did,
left
'cause
it in.
It looked brilliant. Like that time that Kev fell flat on his face and dropped his phone. Remember when he was running down the street?
And he fell flat on his face and dropped his phone. And we laughed and laughed.
Looked like a sore one as well. Swain is suspicious but is distracted when she sees Betsy stumbling about the door on number 7. Swain and Carla go in and shut down the party as Nina and Summer sneak out the back so the pigs
Right.
don't harsh their high.
It's the fuzz. We got to get out of here because suddenly our acid has turned into marijuana and we're very, very paranoid.
Right. Para.
Which is
Super para.
not what happens.
Swain and Carla now check the factory and Aadi follows them in to offer his assistance and backup. Carla immediately sees that someone has been in. Aadi manages to find racist Kelly before anyone else, keeps her calm and gets her the fuck out of Dodge while Carla and Swain are checking somewhere else. He takes her back to his and lays her out in the recovery position on his bed.
Right. And at no time during this, she is crying and she is scared. But did she look like she was in pain? Like, oh, I don't know, one of her major organs had ruptured?
Oh, she'd broken her rib? No, she didn't look
No.
like that at all.
No, not at all. Makes you wonder what Aadi is sleeping in.
Amy's disappointed to see Aadi walking racist Kelly back to his house like he's going to take advantage, which of course he doesn't. Meanwhile, Lou storms round to shout at Kit, who has trouble getting a word in. She calls them both toxic and warns them to stay away. Later, Nina and Summer sneak into the closed cafe, both of them super upset and frightened and sick and worried about something that's happened after they left the party. Something seriously, you guys.
Yeah, something seriously happened when they walked across the road from one door to another?
No, the insinuation I think is that they went into town.
Why? When they were rushing out, afraid and needing to get home.
Because when we see them later on, when we talk about what happened later on,
Yes.
they're in an unusual part of town, retracing their steps. So it looks like
They're-
they just wandered away
They're by a dumpster.
in an unusual place of town, in an unusual part of town.
Okay. We see a dumpster and some brick walls.
We see,
How unusual
we see a
is this?
street
Do we?
that is, yes, that is not recognisable as being a usual street.
Huh.
That's why I said all the things that I said.
Yes, I thought you were just saying that it was unusual because somebody had spray painted Gandalf onto the
No.
dumpster.
No,
Gandalf the white, not Gandalf the grey.
it was a wizard baby.
It was a wizard, baby.
And that's as far as we get with that bit. We will come back to the rest of that storyline a little bit later.
What?
Yeah, I'm going to keep you in suspense here, Helen.
Well, not me.
I really enjoyed an awful lot of this. I had quite a bit of fun with it. It wasn't perfect, but when I heard that the young team were going to have a party, I assumed the worst.
Right,
And it wasn't that.
It's still terrible that once again we are traumatizing young women who already have PTSD from the other times that the show has traumatized them. And so we're going to be like, oh yes, it's a fun party. Psych, you're going to be traumatized and punished for trying to have fun. Shame on you for trying to have fun. It's time for more trauma. It's like, can't these kids just have fun for once? Summer was having fun. We were delighted in fun summer.
Yeah, I don't know that they can show kids having a good time on drugs.
Well, no, but you know what? Here's the thing. Why don't we show the kids just drinking beers because they are of legal age and not doing drugs?
But then
Let's just have a fun
storyline can't
party.
happen.
Yeah, but then we write a different storyline where nobody gets re-traumatized again. Oh, and guess what? Once again, it's the young women who are traumatized.
It does seem to have an uncanny knack of...
Yes, let's
of singling out the young
traumatize
women.
Nina and racist Kelly again. That sounds like fun. Let's do that. No, stop it. Let them have some happiness. What is wrong with you people? Let kids have a party. And there were plenty of 90s teen movies where teenagers did drugs and they were fine. And everybody had fun and made it home safely and no one was traumatized. Except for that one time in Pretty in Pink.
Oof. I don't think that's much of a movie.
No.
Teen party, nothing happens.
No.
There's 90 minutes of fun right there.
Teen party, funny things happen. People get their hole off of other people's mums. And
That's a different kind of movie.
and people stick their penises into apple pies.
Again, different kind of movie. And that's a dreadful movie.
I remember going to see that movie with my sister and her friends who were younger than me, and they thought that it was the Beatles who sang Mrs. Robinson, and I never spoke to those people again.
And people wonder what happened to the world. You get the world you deserve.
Well, some of us do.
No, for the most part, I enjoyed lots and lots of this. And when I say lots and lots of this, I mean I just enjoyed summer. I just think she
Right,
was great.
and until
And I enjoyed Aadi as well until he starts running off. I enjoyed Asha as well, being the kind of custodian of everyone. She was making sure everyone was drinking out of paper cups, and she was kind of taking charge of the whole thing before she went off to work. I thought
Right.
she was the mother.
she was
and I thought
making
that
sure people were hydrated. She was doing her job. This is her job. It's to take care of people and to make sure that they drink responsibly and
Yeah.
stuff.
And I think that she's turned into a fantastic character.
Oh, yes.
Asha has, when you see
Asha's
how she's
great.
gone, remember when she was hooked up to ITV Corrie? That was a bad,
Very bad.
a low, a very, very deep low.
Yes.
But where she is now, yeah, I'm all for it.
Yeah, me too. Just like Summer. I like Summer now. Never thought that was going to happen.
No, neither did I.
I wish the show remembered that she was diabetic, though, because alcohol is bad enough when you're a diabetic. I can't imagine the side effects that a hallucinogen might have to her diabetes. Although, in fairness, probably ayahuasca would mess her up more because there's more sugar in ayahuasca than there is in acid made in a
I have
factory.
never heard you say ayahuasca as much as I have this week.
It's a fun word to say.
I can tell you enjoy it because you keep on saying it.
Ayahuasca. And you'll never guess how it's spelled. There's an X.
Yeah, I think I would have guessed the next. I guess the other part of this storyline was Bernie telling stories that aren't really hers to tell.
Yeah. I prefer it when she tells her own stories.
Yeah, Bernie's been a bit of a kind of a centre of all the stuff that's happening this week, and that part of it,
Yeah.
just because, and it seems to be just because she wants a grandson.
Right. She's
She's got more grandchildren than she knows what to do with.
She's got a grandson. She's got a couple of them.
And the whole just trying to see the good in them,
Right.
while admirable, that just feels really misplaced.
Yeah. Yeah. I think they're going to have to work a little bit harder to make us like Brody.
Yeah, more than because Bernie says so.
Right. I have to say, I think I have finally turned a corner on racist Kelly this week.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Shamefully, I thought this might be her exit.
It might still be her exit. Who knows?
Nah, she's got better. That ruptured spleen, it's already healed.
It's not. She's still in the hospital.
Yeah, she's going to be out. She'll be out on Monday. She's fine.
I like her jammies.
She just sits with a fucking sour face, though, and it's worried that everybody does hate you, racist Kelly. This is why.
We get to see her smile, though, and, joke around with Betsy. I like that friendship.
Let's move on.
Shut up.
Post-party, post-mortem. On Wednesday, Bernie turns up at Dev's and shits herself when she sees Aadi waking up on the couch.
Right. Rising up like that zombie in 28 years later.
She's
That zombie?
Yeah.
The one that people thought was Cillian Murphy? And it wasn't.
She's apologetic to Aadi and Asha for Brody ruining their party, but reacts badly when they insinuate that Brody is a total scumbag.
Because he is.
Kit, he brings Sarah up to speed with Brody being his son. Sarah works out that he must have got the DNA results back. That's
Well done, Sarah.
smart brains in Sarah.
Well done.
He tells her that Brody is none too happy and he feels out of his depth. On the street, Brian catches up with Carl and Swain and grasses up Aadi, who we saw leaving the vicinity of the factory last night with racist Kelly around 8:30. Carl thinks this is a coincidence after the break-in, so goes off to speak to Aadi, and that's what she does round at Dev's. Asks him about his loitering around the factory just as racist Kelly comes down the stairs, claiming that she's not feeling well, and then promptly passes out. Oh well, says Carla.
That's
No,
not
no,
what
she
Carla
doesn't.
says.
She's
Carla.
very worried.
Carla's-
And she calls racist Kelly an ambulance.
Racist Kelly, you're an ambulance. Carla's been very mothering this week. She's like mothering everybody, and she's not shouting quite so much at everyone. She's
Yeah.
speaking very calmly.
Barely recognise her.
I know, it's shocking.
Asha tells Aadi and Carla that racist Kelly has a broken rib and a ruptured spleen.
Which should have killed her already.
Carla sends Aadi on his way. She'll wait for racist Kelly to come out of surgery because she has nothing better to do.
Except for,
Run
a factory.
Post op, racist Kelly wants to know what Carla wants, so she gets right down to it. What the fuck was she doing in the factory, despite not working at the factory last night? Racist Kelly looks like she's still tripping balls a bit, and she tells Carla that dead Joel was chasing her. And this is all a bit too close to home for Carla.
Yes.
Mostly when racist Kelly insists that she wasn't drunk. So Carla goes back to Dev's to quiz the young team about what happened to racist Kelly last night. They all plead ignorance and insist that they're not the sort of kids to use drugs or spike anyone's drink. Summer and Asha become very interested in the middle distance at this point.
Amy especially is very, very indignant.
She's vehement, I would say.
Yes. And it's funny because she's only speaking for herself, really, but she's like lumping everybody else in with her because she wasn't around when everybody decided to take hallucinogens.
No, she doesn't know
Any of
I think
this.
that there was any drugs at the party as far as she was aware.
Well, no, she must have known that because Brody's kicking out was very vocal and violent.
Carla goes to the cop shop to speak to Swain about all this. Now, Carla isn't a police officer,
Nope.
and she's basically at Swain's desk,
Yeah.
playing with Swain's ponytail.
Yes.
Was that weird? I mean, it was kind of cute, but was it weird?
It was weird.
At our workplace?
These are
For
grown.
a police officer?
These are grown adult women. These are grown adult women at one of their jobs playing with her ponytail.
I mean, there's other police people there
Right.
that can see that.
Yeah. And some of them already don't like Swain.
Right.
So, yeah, this is inappropriate.
A little inappropriate.
Right. And also infantilizing both of these women.
Yeah. Kind of cute, but very, very inappropriate.
These are adult
Very
women.
inappropriate.
They're not cute. They're adults.
Oh, older people can be cute.
No, well, those are very old people.
Swain and Carla?
No. Old people are cute. Like when they're like in their late 70s and they're walking down the street holding hands and eating ice creams. That's cute. Women in their late 40s are not cute.
Oh, yes, they are. You're cute.
Aw. That's different. You
Change
don't
your
play
tune.
with my ponytail when I'm at work.
Swain tells Carla to get racist Kelly to give a urine sample and she'll sort it out. So off she goes back to the hospital with a small jar that racist Kelly agrees to piss into.
Yes.
Meanwhile, Swain tells Kit of Carla's suspicions and he reluctantly agrees to follow up. He says, the mystery of why a woman might be drugged at a party because a woman's taking drugs at a party.
Right, yeah. Well done, Kit. Well done for
No interest whatsoever in looking into this.
mansplaining drug use and not thinking about why would someone try to drug a woman at a party? Why would that happen, Kit? Why?
Outside the cafe, we have the obligatory Brody is an asshole scene as he refuses to listen to his mum's apologies and basically calls her a whore and insists everything has changed, and he tearfully
Nothing
stomps
has
off.
changed.
Kit sees and hears all of this and looks a bit guilty. Bernie finds Brody drinking stolen cider in the precinct. She tells him that he's going the quick way to shit himself for the 3rd time this month. He thanks her for her honesty, as she's the only one who tells him the truth. He can't bear his home or his mum or looking his sisters in the eye. Come on then, she says, and back at Dev's. Amy wants to talk to Aadi about their kiss and feels he's sending her mixed messages, but they're interrupted by Kit, who wants to question them about drugs at the party. Again, they deny it, but
Yeah.
Kit drags Aadi away.
Again,
to give a
Amy
statement.
interrupts to be very indignant and doesn't let anyone else speak because she's very indignant. Don't you know what happened to me, Kit, before you were on the show? Didn't anybody tell you about that horrible time that I was drugged on the show?
Kit knows everybody's name. He knows everything about everybody. So predictably, Bernie takes Brody home to stay at number 7 until the situation with him not having a clear idea of his own identity settles down.
And Aadi and Asha are not pleased.
They're fucking appalled by this.
Yeah,
and
they're-
rightfully so.
Right. Yes, and rightfully so. And yet they shut up when she says, he's my grandson. It's like, so fucking what? We're your stepchildren, and
Right.
we don't like him. Get him the fuck out of here. Why is he not staying with you at Gemma's house with Gemma's wig? Why is Brody's hair not hanging out with Gemma's hair? Because if there's 2 hairstyles on the show that need to hang out together, it's Gemma and Brody's hair. It looks like he never washes it.
Probably doesn't.
He's like Norman Reedus.
Which is difficult probably for, because I don't think that's a wig.
No, that's his hair.
But it's going to be difficult for him having to maintain that, as he's probably itching to wash it.
Yes. It looks terrible. It's like when they did that promotional photo of everybody at the party, and we're like, why the hell is Brody in this picture?
Mm-hmm.
And also, he looks so unwashed next to everyone else in the picture,
Right.
including Dylan.
His best friend.
Yes, in the picture, looking washed.
Look at this picture of washed teenagers and people in their early 20s. And then that guy. Ash and Aadi are fucking appalled, but Bernie reminds them that she's Brody's granny, so fuck them both, and up he goes to give himself a wash. Finally.
Yeah, only he doesn't look later like he's had a wash.
I'm glad that we don't see any more of this situation.
No.
Because it's dreadful. And
So
again,
bad.
Bernie, what you doing? You're determined to make me hate you here.
Seriously.
So Friday, Aadi goes to see racist Kelly at the hospital, who wants to know who did this to her. He tries to play it down and saying, oh, maybe it was just a bit of a laugh, but she's having none of it, and she thinks this was a deliberate spiking because everyone hates her. Well, everyone does hate you, he says, but no one spiked you. Later, Betsy is visiting racist Kelly, who is predictably down in the dumps about being so incredibly unpopular. Aadi comes in with a coffee for her, and they all share some low-level banter. He leaves for work, walks into a wall on his way,
Yeah, it was funny.
and Betsy reckons that the two of them are super close all of a sudden, aye?
And he does act like
He
he's,
really does.
like he likes her. We know he doesn't, that it's only because he's very anxious because he knows how she got drugged. But it also, if you don't know that he's acting that way because he knows how she got drugged, you might think it's because he has a thing for her.
Well, if we think back to when he was going to get racist Kelly a job all out of the blue, I think the show does want us to think that there's a chance for the two of them.
I mean, he did lose his virginity to actual Kelly.
Yeah.
So, just going through the Kellys.
Because remember, we also talked about Aadi's future on the show,
Right.
and racist Kelly might be responsible for another exit.
Right.
But who knows?
Who knows?
Yeah, you're right about Carla being the sort of motherly figure here, but I thought this was a good use of knowing a character's background, because Carla was drugged. She kind of senses this very early on that something
Right.
similar has happened, and then she's not going to let this go
No.
because of her experience.
Right. And that's good. The whole kind of very calmly talking to racist Kelly, because it's either she's been drugged, which Carla has experience with, or she's had a psychotic break, which Carla has also been, had that. Because if there's one thing the show likes to do, It likes to traumatize women for entertainment value.
Well, we do watch it and do a podcast about it.
Well, that's the only reason why
This reflects all quite badly on you, actually, when I think about it.
But, you know, some of the other instances, like being very mothering to Aadi, who I don't think she's ever spoken to in her life, and, you know, and all of that as well. And the fact that she and Swain just kind of accept Aadi's cricket ball story, and they don't really
I
question
don't know
it
if
very
they do
much.
accept it.
Well, they're very much like, okay, sure, that's fine, whatever, and just like leave him to it, and they don't question him further about why were you playing cricket? I've never seen you play cricket
And he
before,
says I
Aadi.
wasn't playing cricket.
Not today. It was like a couple days ago
That was
that I was
funny.
playing cricket in the street, where you probably would have noticed me if I was playing cricket with a hard-ass cricket ball around all of these windows.
Oh, you're spoiling the fun. Again, though, we're meant to think that the Brody and Bernie scene in the precinct is he, again, getting drunk. Is this sort of tender scene, or so I just don't feel like it's
No,
working, and
it's
I
not.
feel like they are trying to pitch it like that, but it's just
It's like, Bernie, you have grandchildren who don't get drunk on a slide on a daily basis,
Do you
and who
think she
aren't
was-
difficult.
Do you think she wasn't lying then when she said that he really does remind her of Paul?
I think there's that, and I think there's a little bit of she wasn't able to mother Kit at that age, so with Brody she gets a second chance. Is what I think is happening here. But I'm just like, Brody was able to get hallucinogenic drugs from somewhere where he was going to maybe like sell drops to people at the party or something.
He looked like he was there to spike a punch ball if one existed. That's what he looked like he was going to do.
Yeah, because he says something to Dylan like, oh, I can sell some of this there before they go into the party.
I
You
don't
know,
think he said that.
But he's able to get hallucinogens, and yet he's still drinking a bottle of cider on a slide. It's like, if you're able to get hard drugs and you're this messed up of a kid, why wouldn't you just take the hard drugs? Why would you still drink alcohol? It makes no sense.
Class A drugs for LSD, I think. I think LSD is Class A. Yeah, it's classified in the UK as Class A, which means it's on the same par as heroin.
Yeah, but you know what?
Oh, and ecstasy, and magic mushrooms,
Right. Yeah.
and crystal meth.
Do you know what is classified as bad as heroin here in America? Marijuana, which is nowhere near as bad as heroin, which can kill you.
Oh, wait a minute, but marijuana's legal.
Yeah, but not federally. It's state by
Oh,
state.
sure.
So you can't take it over the border, and you can't take it on an airplane.
It has made the whole drug screening in HR a political hot potato.
Yeah, I bet it's a bloody nightmare. People are eating poppy seed muffins again.
Do you like a poppy seed muffin?
Right, yeah. I just
I
remember...
choose to smoke mine.
No, because poppies are opium.
I know, Helen.
So I remember when my dad was still in the Navy, he couldn't eat anything with poppy seeds in it because it would get flagged in a drug screening. I remember that very distinctly, that my dad couldn't eat poppies and also was somehow allergic to guinea pigs. Which
So
devastated
you couldn't
me.
smoke guinea pigs either.
No.
Probably for the best. Hamsters, fine, but guinea pigs is the hard stuff. All right, let's move on to our next storyline. Half. On Wednesday, it's Steve's birthday. He's 51.
He is
So
51.
you're younger than me. But he has a gift for Tracy. Divorce papers.
Ha ha!
Steve
I
hums.
thought they were already freaking divorced.
Yeah, so
Why
did
is
I.
it taking so long for them to get divorced?
So we can
She's
dedicate
already
it.
moved to Spain with a dude. Why did you send her divorce papers then?
I think you've got to
Steve?
wait for a while.
Do you?
Yeah. Steve hums and haws about his birthday, saying that he has nothing planned. Privately, Tracy tells Mary that Steve's sadder than normal, so wants to make some plans to cheer him up. But Steve does have birthday plans, and they involve getting his hole with Cassie.
There you go.
Seems that they're on again. Steve wants to stop sneaking around, but then gets a text from Tracy wanting to meet him at the pub to talk about the divorce papers. Grudgingly, he goes off to see her. "Shag you later," he says, "over the Casanova." So, in the pub, Tracy reveals her ruse. It's a birthday drink with her ex, and Sarah. Steve is non-committal until Sarah, again, who was there for some reason, wonders if he had a better offer, maybe. So he has a drink with him, but when he hears that Amy's going to number one to get his present, he rushes out.
No.
Suspicious of why Steve bolted, Tracy follows, and she and Amy discover Cassie in Steve's dressing gown, waiting for her hole, so Steve has to come clean.
But importantly, not the dressing gown that matches Tracy's dressing gown from the matching Tracy and Steve dressing gowns. This is a solid colored dressing gown. It is not a leopard print.
He and Cassie are an item, and if they don't like it, they can stick it up their arse.
Right up their arse.
Amy wonders why she can't have normal parents.
Nobody can, Amy. Nobody can.
Yeah, that's true. On Friday, in the pub, it's official. Steve and Cassie are a thing that fucks. Billy is happy for them. They
Is
head
he?
off to Speed Dial. I don't know. He's there.
Billy
They
is
head off-
uncomfortable.
They head off to Speed Dial for a curry and run into Tracy and Leanne, who seem very close all of a sudden. Tracy has plans to get back at Steve and Cassie.
Not all of a sudden. They've been friends for a while since Tracy was supporting Leanne in, terrorizing Toya. Remember that?
All of a sudden. Tracy has plans to get back at Steve and Cassie for having the audacity of trying to be happy. So later, she goes round to the cab office with new divorce papers because she wants half of streetcars and advises them to lawyer up.
Where did she get these new divorce papers written up in half an afternoon?
If you can't hit Adam up for this sort of thing, what can you do?
Who's Adam? There's a guy on the show called Adam?
There's a Scottish guy that attempted to fly one time.
One time.
Just the one time.
Adam is MIA. Adam's not drawing up anything for Tracy.
He's back next week, I think, or the week after. Steve goes to the pub to complain about Tracy to Cassie, and of course, Tracy comes in at this point, overhears him bad-mouthing her, so she takes great pleasure about winding him up about becoming business partners together. And that's as far as we get with that this week. So my question is, if Tracy wants half of streetcars, if I'm Steve, I want half the fucking florist.
Yeah, that's what he should do. Although she doesn't want half of streetcars, she wants half of Steve's half of streetcars.
Right.
So she wants a quarter of streetcars. Only she doesn't really want a quarter of streetcars. She's just doing this to torture Steve.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if she was actually that's who they need. They should be like, sure, Tracy, you take the mic there. You take the calls of weird people asking for cabs. Do that for half a day. She'd be bored to tears and also horrified.
And should also scare off all the customers. But it was amazing that this isn't the first thing that jumps into Steve's head. Well, if you want half of my business, I want half of yours.
There are so many things and so many times where somebody says something to somebody in the show and I shout at the laptop or iPad, why aren't you asking this? Why aren't you saying this? Why are you just standing there and taking it instead of saying, Summer took drugs in America?
Good old Summer.
Oh, Summer.
It just seems so obvious.
Yeah.
If somebody comes for you immediately,
You come for
the
them.
natural reaction is you retaliate.
See, the problem is that Steve is too soft. I'm sure Cassie will suggest this at a later date.
I hope so, because it's right there.
It's right there.
And I don't think she wants to give up half of nothing,
Nope.
especially like him. What? Do you think it's still the Ken thing that's really like sticking in her craw here? Because
No, I think it's the Steve thing that's sticking in her craw because she doesn't want him, but she doesn't want him to be happy
doesn't
with
want anybody
anyone
to-
else.
Yeah.
That's the problem. Because she's like, oh, I feel so bad for Steve. I'm going to make him feel better. And then it's like, no, you're not, Tracy. That's not your job anymore.
And he doesn't need it.
He doesn't need you. And she hates that. She hates that he doesn't need him, that he doesn't need her. She doesn't need him. She doesn't want him, but she still wants him to want her.
Mm-hmm. Do you like Cassie and Steve together?
You know, honestly, I don't mind it.
I don't mind it either.
I don't mind it. I'm not a fan of Cassie. But Cassie, like Tracy, is the kind of woman that Steve needs to be with. Somebody who's a little devious and dark and hard. Because Steve is a big old softy.
Yeah, that's true.
And a numpty. And a muppet.
And they have taken their time to set this up. They've brought it close and it hasn't happened, and close and it hasn't happened, and it's
then
interesting that now it has.
It's been happening off the scene.
Yeah,
Off
and I
the
don't
screen.
mind that.
Yeah.
All right, we'll move on to the next storyline. Sucks to be a Webster.
Yep.
On Wednesday, there's still no sign of Debbie because Debbie went missing last Friday.
Yes.
And now it's Wednesday.
Yes.
Kev and Ronnie are dead worried like. Kev gets a call from a withheld number, and it's Debbie who claims she's at a hotel in Cheshire, which worries Kev more as she should be speaking to her doctor. But Debbie's not at a hotel, she's in the nick. Later, Kev is struggling but doesn't take kindly to being sent to bed, so when Debbie calls back, it's Aadi who picks up the phone and agrees to go and pick her up and give her a lift. So, obviously, Aadi wants to know what the fuck Debbie was doing at the police station, and she claims that she was looking for lost keys, but Aadi knows about the Cheshire pish, so Debbie has to come clean. She got arrested for being drunk and disorderly in a dessert shop.
It's hilarious.
This, I think, might be one of the first mentions of the dessert shop that's in the precinct.
It's an ice cream shop, isn't it?
Yeah.
They've come out of it with ice creams. So
But
people have...
nobody's referred to it.
Are we sure that that's the dessert shop that she was drunk and disorderly
Yeah,
in?
because they go back to apologise and then
yeah.
have the shot in the swings.
Yes. Eating ice cream. Are they eating ice cream?
I had the misguided opinion that when they announced the precinct set with the charity shop,
And the ice cream.
with ice cream shop,
Yeah.
there are bits and pieces that are there
Yeah.
that we would see inside them,
Yeah. Nope.
and then we don't.
No.
She says that she had a tough day, let's remember, and is dreading losing her facilities. She likes being in control, so her future is terrifying. Aadi says that's a long way off and she has a family who love her. Aadi talks Debbie into apologising to the dessert place, who agree to drop the charges, and then it's off to the playground for a go in the swings. Debbie starts feeling sorry for herself again, but appreciates Aadi and Carl, who she says has been a godsend. Then Debbie goes up to the jerkies, and they fuck off for a game of Chapdoor Run. Not a word to Kev or Carl about any of this, though.
No.
Back at Kev's, he tells Debbie that he and Ronnie are going to make sure that she's well taken care of. Debbie insists, though, that the time when she needs Kev and Ronnie to do everything for her is not now, and she'll fucking take care of her own
not
business.
ever!
Thank you very much.
Yes.
So on Friday, Kev, Aadi, Carl and Ronnie are all in Nina's roles, talking about how Debbie doesn't like being talked about behind her back.
Hilarious.
And they also talk about the failed attempts to help. Ronnie insists that he's here for her, whatever it takes. All he has to do is convince Debbie of that. So Ronnie goes to get Dev's most expensive bottle of champagne
It's just hilarious.
as a grand gesture for Debbie, although Leanne doubts that Debbie is a grand gesture type.
Right.
No refunds, coughs Aadi.
Yes.
So at the Rape Hotel, it looks very much like Ronnie wants to celebrate Debbie's dementia with some bubbly. He tells her how much he loves her, and she admits that she loves him too, but she doesn't want him to be her carer. He wants to be her partner, though. She thinks her love for him doesn't matter. She knows that she loves him now, but there'll be a time when she doesn't know who he is, and he'll be better off with someone else. He thinks they're meant to be together, and she agrees, and thinks that she's meant to live a long, long life and die in a bath of tears of her enemies, but you can't have everything you want.
No.
Ronnie says that he knows her, and it's impossible for him to let her go through this on her own. One way or another, he's part of it, because she's everything to him. So Debbie lets him in. She says she's scared, and she lets him help, or be scared with her. And they hug, and it was lovely.
It was. I really enjoyed this scene very much. Debbie, yes, not being very impressed with what she refers to as plonk,
Right.
which it's not plonk, but never mind. And then she makes a joke about it being, one of Dev's expensive bottles that still has dust on it and everything. And that's kind of nice that
It's
there's
like
like
the
this.
Sturi Maduri.
It's like it's like a community joke. Dev's expensive bottles. Just like Dev's kiwis.
It's hairy
But-
kiwis.
Very hairy kiwis. And how they transition from this helping to move the wine bottles that the delivery. Why are the delivery drivers for alcohol so terrible on this show?
I know. And why isn't Raphael helping out?
Where is Raphael? I was so excited. It's like, oh, I hope Raphael's in this episode. No Raphael in this episode.
Shocking.
Very shocked.
Shocking.
But then it kind of moves on. There's this little bit of push and pull, but you know where it's going to end up.
You hope so, because there's been so many false dawns over the past few weeks.
And then finally they're back together and everybody is happy. And you know what I also really appreciated? I appreciated the scene in Dev's where Leanne is there with her hair newly dyed. Very, 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 very pale blonde, which looks really great on her, by the way. And how she's just like, oh, you're going to give it another go? You should give it another go. You and Debbie belong together. This is really nice. And there's no, they are just friends. And there's no bitterness.
Right.
There's no immaturity. There's no hurt feelings. It was really nice.
Yeah,
And I appreciated that at least in this scene, Leanne can be an adult
and it's
with gorgeous hair.
and it's really cemented a little bit later on in the pub when Leanne congratulates them both, and when Debbie responds, she's not doing it through clenched teeth or anything. It's all in the past.
Yes.
It was all a big old misunderstanding.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I really loved that. And again, the acting chops here from both of them. But as Debbie breaks down and admits how scared she is,
Yeah.
and then the line about "I'll be scared with you" is
Oh,
that's really, really good stuff. That
Very good
really
stuff.
good stuff.
yes, I enjoyed that very much.
So they celebrate at the bistro with Kev, Abby, and Carl. Debbie toasts to her family and the Websters. Kev has to make it about him though,
Of course he does.
and he toasts Abby for being his rock. To
Yeah.
Abby.
Yeah, which is just meant to, kind of put a little sting in the eye of Carl sitting there making eyes at Abby.
Later, Carl gets a private word with Abby and reminds her that he
Aye.
desperately wants to get his hole with her, and she tells him to behave more or less. And that's as far as we get with that this week.
Yes.
Yeah, this has been a long time, from Debbie's initial diagnosis on this, breaking up with Ronnie, the fits and starts of Ronnie trying to get back with her and it not working out, and all the complications and the confusions of that. And it's
Right.
just so glad to get back to this position now where everybody knows everything about this part of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Ronnie's back in the circle of trust again.
Right, and it's really nice. And then they have to ruin it by making it about Kev and Abby and Carl's love triangle. Mm-hmm.
Which isn't really a love triangle yet.
No, but every triangle is a love triangle when you love triangles.
I believe it was a very wise man that said that repeatedly on this podcast. James A. Caster.
Yes, because James A. Caster has been on this podcast.
I think he has.
There
was somebody from Kettering on it.
He's a Hollywood movie star now.
Maybe it was in the Ghostbusters movie.
Yeah. So he's a Hollywood movie star. Because he was in the Ghostbusters movie.
That's how they managed to get Dan Aykroyd onto their off-menu podcast.
Yes. Which was brilliant.
That was dreadful. All he did was talk about his vodka.
Right. And
Dan
also,
Aykroyd and his fucking vodka.
and also ghosts. And the paranormal. Because that's all Dan Aykroyd could talk about is what he's going to do when he comes back as a ghost.
So we're saying this is, apart from the Abby and Carl stuff. Although...
I could have used with less of that. Can we just focus on Debbie, please?
I agree. And it's not so much that I dislike the old welcome soap trope of infidelity.
Right, with someone's brother.
Right. It's not so much that I disapprove of it,
It's just
but just let us enjoy Debbie
let's give this
uninterrupted.
other storyline, a little room to breathe
Yes.
without jumping on it with Abby and Carl making weird eye contact. Oh, listeners, if you could only see.
All right, then.
Okay.
Let's move on to our penultimate storyline.
Oh, thank God. It's so hot in here.
Theo No Sleeves. On Friday, Millie is reading Stephen King in Nina's Rose because, well, Todd tries to have
Because she's a moody teenager.
Todd tries to have a conversation with that. What's it, The Outsiders? Is that a Stephen King book, The Outsiders?
S.E. Hinton wrote The Outsiders, famously. I don't know. You couldn't see the title. You could just see Stephen King.
The Outsider it was.
So it's not The Outsiders. It's just one outsider.
Just one outsider.
Yeah. Which one do you think it is?
The one at the left-hand side of the loaf.
Oh, you don't think it's Ponyboy?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
I'm talking about the movie Outsiders based on the S.E. Hinton.
No, I'm talking about a loaf of bread.
The Outsiders.
Todd tries to have a conversation with her about it, but doesn't get very far. He finds out that
Her
favourite
favorite Stephen King book is
Firestarter,
Firestarter,
and
which
it's about
makes 100% sense.
about a little girl who starts fires just by staring at things. Well, I'll go and stand over here then.
Right, yes, by James.
Then James comes in, happy to brag about his new venture as a personal trainer. Millie seems quite taken by James. Theo, not so much.
Yeah, Millie seems quite taken with the idea that she might be able to get Todd into James's pants.
Indeed. Back home, Todd gives Millie a copy of Pet Sematary because he hates her. It's a tough book. I would arguably say it's one of Stephen King's darkest books.
Really? Because a group of boys don't rape their best friend in Pet Sematary. Because they're all underage, so it's statutory rape technically. In it.
It's not like you to bring something down. Helen, you're usually so upbeat. I still think Pet Sematary is the darker of the books.
You know what? I actually think Cujo is rather dark too. What is it with Stephen King and animals?
What is it with Stephen King and wee boys getting run over by trucks? Spoiler.
Yes, you're spoiling a book that was written in the 1970s. And a
Pet
terrible
Sematary
movie.
wasn't written in the 1970s.
And okay, the early 80s. Well, the movie came out in the early 80s too, and it was
No,
terrible.
it didn't come out in the early 80s.
The original one.
It came out in the late 80s. And it was a great movie. It had Fred Gwynn in it.
Who?
Herman Munster.
Oh, I love him. Oh, you're right. 1989. Fool me once. God, there's been like what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Pet Sematary movies.
I think I'm aware of 2 of them, maybe 3.
Ridiculous. I think one
There was
is
a sequel and then they remade it.
right, and then Pet Sematary Bloodlines, Pet Sematary 2, Pet Sematary : The Tale of Timmy Batterman,
Oh, that sounds good.
and then Unearthed and Untold: The Path to Pet Cemetery, which I'm assuming is a documentary about the making. Oh, and then there's Postman Pat's Pet Cemetery.
What? Jess the cat's dead? Fuck it. She is. Jess the cat's dead.
Jess the cat is dead.
For now.
They've made Postman Pat's nose slightly too long. Aye.
It's not usually people that complain about that.
It's only,
Anyway.
it's only 2 minutes long, so I'm sure it's fine.
In return, Millie says that she's paid for Todd to have a session with James, clearly hoping it's a sex session.
Right, yes.
Todd is very grateful, and later he's all sweaty and enjoyed his session and plans for more. But Theo is obviously unhappy about it, claiming
Right.
it might affect the time that Todd has to spend with him and Millie.
Yeah. And also, Todd claims that he's going to have glutes that can crack a walnut. And Theo gulps a little bit and also comes in his pants.
Todd seems to realise this and decides to pull back from the training. Meanwhile, Millie meets Betsy in the community garden. Betsy's on the lager already and gives a tin to Millie, but Todd and his nipples on the way back from the curry shop. spot this and demand to know what the fuck she's playing at, because let's all remember she's supposed to be pregnant.
Right. Yeah.
Back home, Millie begs Todd to keep quiet about this and not tell Theo, and stupidly, Todd agrees. And that's as far as we get with that this week.
Has her fake belly come in yet?
Delivered to Todd's house?
Delivered to Todd's house.
Not yet. Allow 2 weeks for delivery, probably.
Yes. For your fake belly.
For your fake 6-month belly.
Right. Amuse your friends. Because that's what that's for, right? It's for, like, if you're in
movies
a
or
play
something.
or a movie, or it's a joke, or it's Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. It's not going to fool anyone.
Or for an hilarious TikTok video.
Well, yes, there are those too. I'm sorry. I'm just really interested in where I can see this Postman Pat's Pet Cemetery on the internet.
Normally, Helen, I get a little frustrated when your mind goes elsewhere when we're recording a podcast that people pay us money for. But in this instance, I think you're well within your rights.
Thank you. Who knew we were going to discover that this exists during a Coronation Street podcast?
Some would say that that's a sign of a podcast in trouble.
Not us, though.
No.
Not us.
We ignore it and plow on anyway.
Yes, we do. It's kind of like our sex life.
So this is... So...
She seems genuinely touched by the gift of Pet Cemetery, though. Or she's pretending
think
very
so?
well with her dad.
Oh, I don't think so at all.
It's
But it's hard to... You know.
It's hard to tell with Millie. Because, she's a moody teenager. She reminds me of that teenager that's at Darbs all the time when we're at trivia.
Grumpy girl, yeah.
She's very much grumpy girl with just a different hair shade.
Grumpy girl is so grumpy.
Grumpy girl. So grumpy. Her
She
parents
stomps about the place.
parents drag her to trivia night every week.
I know how
Eat
she feels
pizza. She still has to do her homework at the table.
at the table. This whole manipulation thing of Todd by Millie, which she continually manages to do, and he never seems to learn a lesson from it.
Right, which is weird because let's remember, this is Todd we're talking about. Remember how he got back on the show?
I'm going to say Todd, the master manipulator.
Yes, the mastermind of manipulation.
No,
The
certainly,
big-
certainly a different way of saying what I said.
Yeah, I think I had a few more M's in there to make it more fun. Wait, is this just Todd thinking with his penis? All of a sudden, because the master manipulator Todd was also thinking with his penis. So it doesn't make any sense, does it?
No.
And again, I hate to bring it up again, but Theo probably isn't very good at sex yet. Because Todd's his first.
I think he's had sex with Danielle a few times.
Yeah, Danielle probably doesn't let Theo stick his penis in her butt.
You can't be sure of that.
She doesn't seem the type. And also, let's remember, she was in on his parents with the whole conversion therapy thing, because the conversion therapy led to immediately marrying the first woman who said yes afterwards.
I don't know.
She does not seem... She
I
seems like a tight ass.
I know we're kind of making light-hearted, witty banter about this.
Right.
But I don't know that Todd would be that... I mean, it's been a while, right? It's been a while
It
for
has
Todd.
been a while.
But I don't know that it
'Cause
would
I
be
don't think-
that much of an issue for him, because it seems to be that the reason for his agreement to keeping his mouth shut about any number of these things is because he doesn't want Theo to think that he's got it in for Millie. But the reason why Theo would think that he's got it in for Millie is because Millie's made Theo think that.
Right.
So I don't know, maybe it's a bit more nuanced than we're giving it credit for.
No, because he keeps doing dumb things, which makes Theo think that he has it in for Millie.
The airplane mode.
Right. Yes,
All
and
that sort of stuff.
also the trying to convince Millie to move back home with her mom, and also him buying a pregnancy test for Millie and saying, "Let's do one more test before you tell your dad, because you don't want to You want to be sure before you worry him. When that girl has never taken a pregnancy test in her life and is quite adept at, as soon as Todd walking in with a pregnancy test, shifts the focus so that she never takes that pregnancy test.
Right. Yeah, she's a clever one. She's a
smarter
mum's
than
daughter.
She's smarter than she looks.
All right, let's move on to our last storyline. I Know What You Did Last of the Summer Wine, Part 2. On Wednesday, Nina and Summer are retracing their steps, but their memories are letting them down on account of them tripping out of their tits. However, in an alley, they see where it happened, whatever it is, and there's no sign of anything going down.
Except for Gandalf.
In the pub, Nina and Summer are still fretting about whatever it was that happened last night. Amy joins them, so they clam up and talk about what happened with Aadi, and they all learn that racist Kelly's in hospital in another storyline, and this makes Nina and Summer feel much worse. At the cafe, Aadi, Summer and Nina talk about the statement he had to give in another storyline, and tells them that the official line is that there were no drugs at the party, and Asha has agreed to back him up. Summer's on board too, but privately with Summer, Nina wants to go to the police about what secret thing happened. Summer thinks that they hallucinated, but Nina was like, how could we hallucinate the same thing together?
Right, yeah, exactly.
Of letting someone die. All the more reason to keep her yapper shut, says Summer.
This does not sound like the daughter of a vicar, does it? Lying, deceiving.
Well, she's got plenty of practice in that.
Just to keep her own reputation pure when she was the one who said, yeah, I've done hallucinogens. It's fine. It's fun. Let's do it.
Yeah, she's done this before.
She's done this before. She should know, and she should also back her friend up, because she must remember how traumatized her friend has been with other incidences of people getting knocked over and injured in dark alleys.
She doesn't want to get herself into trouble.
Which makes her behavior, I think, even more repulsive.
But all she's really done
is be there.
And she's taking some drugs. Big wows.
Ooh. I took drugs, and now I'm on a podcast that is listened to by people all around the world who love me.
Really? What podcast is that?
This one.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Anyway, completely unrelated to this. At the Rose Gold flat, Maria's having trouble getting a hold of Gary, who still hasn't come back from his mum's. She expected him back last night and now worries that he's missed his train. You know what he's like.
Yeah.
At the salon, Lou is late, complaining about her Brody's parentage storyline, but Maria doesn't give a fuck, as she has bigger things to worry about, like, where the fuck is Gary? Sorry for breathing, says Lou. Eventually, Maria admits to being worried about Gary, which is Lou's cue to fuck off and be busy elsewhere.
Yes.
At the Rose Gold flat, Liam is worried about where Gary is still, and, note to Maria, learn how to cook, because apparently all she does is mac and cheese. Liam thinks Maria and
What's
Gary
wrong with mac and cheese,
have
Liam?
split up every night. Liam thinks Maria and Gary have split up, but she says it wasn't a big deal. He'll be back. On Friday, unconnected to anything, Maria finally hears from Gary by text, telling her that he's staying at a mate's house, Quinny maybe, and needs some space. Upset by this, when Liam asks if she's heard from Gary, she admits that he's asking for space. She thought it was just a small argument and thinks he'll come back when he's ready. Unrelated to that, Nina is still traumatised about her trip. Roy, realising this, tells her to take a break from work.
Right, yes, because she broke a cup. And also is snarky with him about rolls.
Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, Summer's getting her head pecked by Billy about this 2-day hangover that she's on. She meets up with Nina and still insists that they don't know what happened, what was real and what was not, so they have nothing to tell the police. And this doesn't help Nina, but she agrees. She goes to Seb's memorial and meets Abby, who lies and says that she goes there every day. And Abby leaves her to it with her thoughts. Bernie also sees Nina, and she reports this to Roy, so he goes to see her, and she opens up, and we learn a little bit more about this incident. Seemingly, Nina was approached by a bloke. She pushed him away, and he hit his noggin on the pavement, and the sound was like Seb's head. He advises that they talk to the police, and upset, Nina agrees. It's Kit who interviews her, and she describes a man lunging at her and her retaliating, but she can't remember too much more about it because she was so high out of her tits. She doesn't throw Aadi under the bus.
She wasn't high. She was hallucinating. These are two different things.
Says that he didn't know about the drugs. And Kit doesn't think this is a case at all because no one saw anything. There's no witnesses and no body. Well, what about Summer? Says Nina, and then realises that she's totally screwed over her new best pal. Billy and Summer are shopping at Dev's when Kit comes in and drags Summer off for questioning about an important matter. And when Aadi says this is all his fault, Billy is fucking furious at the corruption of his daughter.
Fuck you, Billy. It was your daughter who corrupted everyone else.
And tries to tear a strip of him. So he throws Bernie under the bus, telling Billy that this was all her idea. So Billy goes off to shout at Bernie, but she reminds him that they're adults.
Yeah, they're adults, Billy.
And she didn't force anyone to do anything, and he can suck on her balls for all she cares.
Right, and also she didn't tell them to do drugs, which she didn't. She just made fun of them for being old people.
So Billy goes to the cop shop just as Summer has been released with Roy and Nina already there. Kit is pissed off at this waste of his time because there's no proof that anyone did anything, and the likely reason behind all of this is down to Nina being out of her balls on acid. Summer is fucking furious that Nina grassed her up, and she storms off.
All that goodwill for Summer in the beginning of the week, totally dashed by the end of the week.
But then we see a ginger man in a hospital bed, unconscious,
With something taped to his nose.
probably in a medically induced coma, probably getting his co-pilot to send his texts for him. It's Gary.
Yeah, so somebody stole Gary's phone.
And that's how we end this week's episodes.
So somebody stole Gary's phone and probably were the one who reported it. But Nina says there was so much blood and there was no blood by the dumpster with Gandalf on it. So either that's not the right place or like blood miraculously disappears from pavement by itself.
It does rain a lot in Manchester.
That's not enough. You'd still see a blood stain there. And also, nobody has an umbrella this whole week in the show, so it didn't rain.
I'm not sure of what hoops the show is about to jump through to make all this make sense.
Right.
I wonder if it's going to be enough hoops.
It won't be.
So who's got Gary's phone?
Somebody stole it, obviously.
And decided to reply to Maria?
Well, because she sent so many fucking texts, they have to say something to her to shut her up. Do you think Brody stole the phone? Because somebody found Gary's body and called it in. Because
But let's go back a little bit. Let's go back a bit.
also, I don't believe that Nina could shove Gary so hard it would put him in a coma.
Well, David did beat him up.
That's different.
Is it?
Yes.
Who hasn't successfully put Gary in a coma?
David has bigger muscles than Nina.
Does he?
I think so. And also, David was traumatized because he had been raped.
Are we saying that Gary really was at his mum's?
And she lives by a dumpster with Gandalf on it?
Right. Is that what we're saying? No. It's what we're saying.
Or does she live in the dumpster with Gandalf?
It's what we're saying, that when Gary left Maria's, he really did go to his mum's.
Uh-huh.
But then came back as Maria was expecting them to that
Right.
day and come back by train.
Right.
And coming out of the train station, then whatever happened, happened.
Right. I imagine that it's something kind of like that guy who doesn't get a credit in the at the end of the show who says to racist Kelly, "Are you all right?" and morphs into Joel. Because that's what I was expecting. I was expecting that it was Gary who morphs into Joel, and then it's racist Kelly who put him in a coma.
Yeah, that's what I was
Which
thinking.
I kind of believe more than Nina putting him in a coma. Sorry, Nina.
But Racist Kelly never really was.
She was too
On her own.
terrified. She ran away from that man who was trying to see if she was all right.
But then almost immediately Aadi sees her, then Aadi's following her about. And
Right, and she thinks
And then
that
she's in
Aadi
the
is
factory.
Joel. And then it's like all the mannequins from Doctor Who are Joel. Yeah. So I don't... So what I'm thinking is that Gary saw Nina and Summer, and they were kind of stumbling about, and kind of scared because remember the LSD made them paranoid once they saw Swain.
Mm-hmm.
So he may have approached them to see if they were all right. And because Nina still has PTSD from all of the other trauma she's already dealt with in her life,
She lashes out.
she lashes out the way that Racist Kelly kind of did with mannequins.
Mm-hmm.
I still don't understand how Racist Kelly ruptured her spleen fighting mannequins.
No, that is a strange, unexplainable that's left hanging there, isn't it?
Right. Or
She broke a rib. How'd you break a rib?
right, yeah. I'm assuming that what happened is she broke the rib. It was untreated, and then when she was put in the recovery position, her rib went into her spleen, and that's how her spleen got ruptured. But still,
How did her rib break in the first place?
right. And she would have been in a lot of pain. She would have been screaming as Aadi tries to usher her across the street. And that doesn't happen, which again makes me wonder, what does Aadi's bed look like?
You stop wondering about this young man's bed.
And
you.
is Freddy Krueger living underneath it?
Maybe.
Is this a Johnny Depp going up in a flood of blood situation?
I think I'm with you on the gist of the events with Gary and Nina and Summer. They don't really recognise them because
They're
Because
high.
of the drugs.
Or they're not high, they're hallucinating.
it's okay. We all know what you mean when you say hi. You can understand why they don't recognise them because we see how Racist Kelly doesn't recognise people and stuff. So let's assume that everyone's trip is the same. He clearly sees that they're compromised, tries to help, gets pushed over for his troubles, bangs his head because a bang on the head can or should cause probably instant death half the time that we see it, and it doesn't. This time, it puts him into a coma or whatever, and somehow he gets discovered, and somehow he ends up in the hospital, and somehow he doesn't have any identification on him, and somehow the police don't realise that it's him.
Right, yes. He probably doesn't have identification on him because whoever stole his phone also stole his wallet. But yeah, it's kind of hilarious that Adam was pushed off a balcony, but it's Gary who's in a coma being pushed over by Nina.
I think Adam was put in a medically induced coma after that as well.
Was he?
Everyone has a bleed in the brain these
I
days.
seem to remember him like immediately getting up and jogging home. Oh, wait, no. That was Alia after she got blown up.
Right. And then stopped.
Right, yes. Or, poor Dee Dee having a hysterectomy and then having to walk and pick up a child
Yeah. And
shortly thereafter.
choosing to cycle home from the hospital. Yeah, I see that bit. It's the phone thing is a unusual complication to it, and therein lies all the mystery to it. Probably as who's got the phone and why.
Probably Brody.
Where was Brody on that night? He was staying at.
No, because that
Oh, no,
was
that
the
was the
night
next
that
night.
he got kicked out of the party. So he's mad at people. And also he's mad at Gary because Gary hates his dad because his dad beat Gary up. How is it that people keep beating Gary up? He was in the military. He should have a strong stance and not be able to be pushed over by anybody.
Oh, maybe
Much
there's
less
a reason
Nina.
why he's no longer in the military. So you're definitely thinking that Summer is hugely in the wrong here with her reaction to
Yeah,
Nina.
because she's just worried about her. Somebody could have possibly died, and she's worried about her reputation or her ability to get into a good school. You're not... Summer, you've already been to school.
But Summer's basically saying, there's no sign that anything happened here, and we were on drugs.
Right,
You're imagining the whole thing.
right.
There's
But,
no point getting the police involved in this.
but she's also done drugs before. She knows that you don't hallucinate the same thing, and she saw the man get knocked over as well. So she's in deep denial here.
I wonder though, because there is a power of suggestion that you don't hallucinate exactly the same thing, but you hallucinate something similar to what your partner's hallucinating because they're telling you about it.
You're on your own trip. You talk to dogs.
Well,
Or, you know,
Roombas.
I have never taken LSD while owning a Roomba.
Well,
Only responsible adults own Roombas.
that's good confirmation. I hope this isn't the end of Summer and Nina's relationship, because I really loved them together at
Yeah.
the start of the week.
They make sense.
Yep. So the whole some friend you are thing. Well,
Some
some
friends
friend
you are
some are
trying to hide a dead body.
but also how you were with Amy after the whole Aaron thing as
Yeah.
well. I mean, you made up for it, but at the time, you weren't the greatest person in the world.
No.
All right.
It
the
just
great
sours all the days of wine and roses, or the last
Last
of the summer wine. It spoils the last of the summer wine with the days of wine and roses.
Indeed.
That's a different podcast.
The great state of Maine is beckoning, so
Yes.
that was the week that was Coronation
Yes.
Street. Helen, tell me, what was your moment of the week?
Debbie and Ronnie
Yeah,
making up.
I'm glad we didn't give moment of the week last week
Yeah.
to Debbie, because this week
This week was better.
it was better. It was fantastic.
Yes.
And the relief I felt about this was
Yes.
ridiculous.
And the relief between the two of them, they both seemed relieved
Yeah.
once they finally came back together.
As a nation, we begin to heal.
Yes.
Moment of the week.
Your boring moment of the week?
Brian yammering on IPAs.
Oh, that was great.
It was, but I can't think of anything else. It did kind of feel like they took that joke a little too far, because they're like, oh yeah, we'll try this IPA and then we'll leave. And then they go to the bistro to try a different IPA in a bottle. And then they're walking back to the Rovers and saying, you know, there's nothing like a good pint, and it's different drinking it out of a bottle, and you know, plain old beer is good enough for us. And it's like, I think we've taken this joke as far as we can possibly take it.
The one thing that jumped
Oh.
out at me was Mary going on
I was
about
going to
the-
say Mary's tiny terrariums,
That was it for me.
terrariums, because she kept saying Tracy's tiny terrariums over and over and over again.
and it went nowhere.
It really did go nowhere. Even Steve wouldn't buy one.
That's it, I think.
Yeah.
That's our...
Boring moment of the week.
God, what are you doing, Coronation Street? You're making us give boring moment of the week to Mary, of all people.
Although really the boring part of that conversation was Mary trying to explaining to Tracy how cheap moss is.
Yeah, that was the boring bit.
That was the boring part.
Yay!
Boo.
This is yeah, mate, this is a section of the podcast where we take to Twitter and ask our followers what they thought about this week's episodes. The response, as ever, is yay, meh, or zzz, and zzz this week got 34%, meh got 31.2%, and yay just ekes it out 34.8%.
I am shocked by this. I'm shocked that Zz and Meh combined was higher than Yay. I am shocked by this.
You think it was a good week?
I don't think it was necessarily a good week, but it was an interesting week, and we had a very hard time finding a boring moment of the week, and we eventually had to give it to Mary. So that feels like a week that wasn't boring.
The results, more or less, are a third split evenly each, which doesn't happen
Very often.
all that often.
No. And Matt and Ziz are both bad. They both indicate something that's boring and uninteresting.
They are non-positive responses, yes.
There should be like an angry one. Neither one of those are angry. There should be an angry there should be anger somewhere in this poll.
Noted.
Because let's not forget, I am frequently angry at the show.
No kidding. Johnny Thunderfingers writes,
Oh, yay! Johnny Thunderfingers is back.
slightly confused how Gary supposedly texts Maria, then cut to scenes of him in the hospital in critical condition.
Somebody stole his phone. It's so obvious.
Soph writes, how can a week with Joel's brief return, a googly eyes bin, LSD paper boys, the hope Nina did Sean in but finding out it's Gary, Tracy being Tracy and Debbie and Ronnie getting back together be anything but fabulous.
I thought the googly eyes were hallucinations.
That's what I
and
thought
I was
initially
like,
as well.
wait a second. Has Michelle Yeoh moved onto the street with Jamie Lee Curtis? But no, that's an actual googly eyed. Is that Gemma's bin? That must be Gemma's bin.
LGR writes, I'll admit I've gone meh because again it's been a week of the hospital and the Nick, but I have loved the Steve, Cassie, Tracy stuff and of course Debbie and Ronnie. Russell Cox says, complete gash, just criminality and misery. The scriptwriters should be sacked. That said, tonight's may be joyful and character-based, but I doubt it. Well, bits of it were.
Most of it.
Nicola Roberts Cult says, does anybody on Twitter like Corrie anymore? I thought it was a great week. Laws says, very hit and miss. Liked the Debbie and Ronnie reunion and the Tracy scenes, but hated the party stuff. Most of that group of teens are very unlikable, and I have zero interest in them all.
Aw.
Now-
You know, I have zero interest in Aadi and Asha and Amy and Nina and sometimes Summer.
Then you have lost the zest for life.
Seriously. You know what I wished, though? I wish there had been one kid dressed up as a bear at that party.
Oh, that gives me Stephen King vibes. That's very Shining, and we don't want to investigate that too much.
No, but you remember at the end of Midsommar when the boyfriend is inside a bear,
remember.
inside a literal bear getting shot up in flames. It's a very, very satisfying ending to a movie.
Yeah. Now, of course, we don't let those scores or those opinions sway our scores out of 10 this week.
Spoiler alert for Midsommar, by the way.
Helen, what's your score out of 10?
Yeah, you know, apart from re-traumatizing Nina and racist Kelly, and Summer being good at the beginning of the week and bad towards the end, and Billy just being insufferable.
What an asshole.
What a dick! How could you all spoil my precious, precious Summer who's never done a bad thing in her whole life? Shut up, Billy. You're a drug addict and she's your daughter. What the hell, man? What the hell?
I must press you for a score.
Yeah, 7.
I think a 7 as well.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it this week. All right, we'll wrap this one up. This episode is brought to you with thanks to our friends of the podcast: Daisy, French Helen, Pickles, DT, Wendy, Noel, Canadian Helen, Christy, Shandy, English Victoria, Aurora Yvonne, Heather Westerfield, Russell Whiting, Jackie B, Brittany Porter, Lauriana, Tina, Stephen, Leah, Tara J, Fiona B, Canadian Jennifer, and Josephine Otingi. Thank you so much, folks. We very much appreciate it.
Thank you.
If you've ever not put Gary in hospital, write in to tell us about it. We're at talkofthestreet@gmail.com and we're at Corrie Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Threads and Blue Sky. Or reach us the old-fashioned way, the Talk of the Street, P.O. Box 12, Eaton Rapids, Michigan, 48827. You can shout me and Helen a coffee or become a friend of the podcast by heading to ko-fi.com, that's ko-fi.com/the Talk of the Street, or patreon.com/the Talk of the Street. Check out voggle.co.uk for links to our merch store, YouTube channel and blog. And if you're so inclined, please leave a rating and a review on the iTunes of your podcast provider of choice. And be sure to check out our pop culture sister podcast, The List of Lists.
28 years later. Better than 28 weeks later.
Thanks for making it to the end of another episode. And we will be back in 2 weeks' time
Yay.
with more
Let's Talk of the Street.
Talk of the Street.
Bye.
Cheerio.